So Sunya, some artists come to a residency with a particular creative plan. Others just arrive kind of open to whatever inspires themselves. And I'm wondering, how did you approach this residency, and how did your creative time compare to what you anticipated?
Well, I would say my process is a combination of all of that. I definitely had some things in mind that I wanted to accomplish while I'm here. I always have a plan. But I also know, because I am a community-based artist, I also know that part of my process is kind of getting grounded where I am. That means getting grounded in the materials, getting grounded in the geography, learning something about the history, and then knowing something logistically about where I am. So fortunately, because of my mule, who I will not name, I was able to get some things here ahead of time, which was very helpful. But even when I got here, there were things that I needed. I needed, certain pots and certain utensils. I needed to know where to find, certain of the chemicals that I needed. I needed to find food. I needed to, all those things. So it took, and then there's this beautiful lake and the geography and the community and the buildings and the architecture. There's all that stuff going on, and the food. So experiencing all of that while, getting the things in place that I needed. Once I got everything in place that I needed, then I was able to begin to put together kind of a work plan. Now, that plan has changed week by week, but I do have a plan. And what I know just from previous work in community, it's important to be flexible, and it's also important to add a little bit more time. So, and part of my work is relationship based, so meeting other artists and being able to have that sense of give and take. I've been able to be, I'm inspired everywhere. There's beauty and creativity everywhere. I love the mix of the old and the ancient, as well as the new that's here. The traditional concepts of poverty, are not, I don't have that, because there's beauty everywhere, regardless of what anyone's socioeconomic status is. There is a way to express and experience beauty here, which I think is so wonderful. And also, I think just having the sense of peace and the sense of place has been very important. I really came here feeling very damaged and unsettled emotionally from all the upheaval that's going on at home in the United States right now. I don't always feel valued or respected. I really don't feel safe at home in many places. I have felt absolutely safe here.
Wow, that's big.
I think that's big.
That's huge.
I have. And I've also felt, in a way, celebrated and not tolerated here. And those are important things, for the spirit, and it has certainly helped with inspiration. Being able to come to your beautiful studio, which looks like an art gallery itself. Being able to meet other textile artists who are really doing work internationally. Being able to converse with writers and poets and photographers, and and it's not that I'm not exposed to brilliant artists at home, because I am. I really am. But the context is different right now.
I'm going to do a time. I'm sure that the people who are watching this interview are dying to hear about your creative process, and we're looking at you against a wall of beautiful dyed fabrics, and I'd love you to tell us what you're working on, how you do it, why you do it, and take us into the work.
Well, I have been working on an art installation, which really is to address the issues of implicit bias in the medical profession toward people of color, particularly women of color. there are a number of factors. There are economic disparities, there are medical disparities, which affect our overall health and well-being. I'm always also interested in the economic money aspect as it relates to women, because we don't make as much money typically. Our money doesn't last as long. We live longer than our partners. We typically don't have the same amount of retirement. So I'm always interested in trying to look at empowerment from that perspective for women and for myself. And we have tremendous medical disparities right now going on around the world, especially in the United States with our healthcare system. So I'm doing an installation that's really addressing, metaphorically, those disparities. The fact that oftentimes our pain is not listened to, is not recognized, our requests for medicine are not recognized. And a lot of the research that I've done, I do know that there is a history, there is a thread of history, which has used Black women's bodies for exploitation and experimentation. The fact that it's felt that we didn't feel pain, we didn't feel, because we weren't fully human.
Right.
So there are vestiges of that in the medical profession today, so that when we're not listened to the same way, our cries for help are not heard in the same way. I have chosen to address this by creating a series of many medical masks that are dyed out of cotton fiber. Cotton, because of its impact in our economic system, was one of the factors that made the United States a superpower based on slave labor. Indigo was another one of those crops that also fueled the American economy, until the Revolutionary War. You could actually trade blocks of indigo as money, and you could also trade indigo for a human being.
Wow.
And then on the side of the textile producers, we give a lot of credit to Eliza Pinckney for her revolutionizing indigo, but it was Black women, Black girls, Native American women who did all of the work. It was horrible work, it was hard work. Toxic, very toxic. And so the flip side of that is my indigenous ancestors used indigo sometimes as an antiseptic. The color blue was used as color of protection, to keep away the evil and to make peace with masters so that they wouldn't be worked to death. So for me, the deep dive into indigo has been both spiritual as well as practical. And so it's really interesting because I'm seeing a projection, what's the word I'm trying to say? Progression, yeah, in terms of even the color. I brought some fabric with me that I dyed here in an iron vat, which is indigo does have iron powder and other chemicals.
To make the mordant, to make it stick, the color.
And an iron vat is an adult-only vat because of the chemicals. Before I left, I had perfected a fructose vat at home, which is used from natural sugars, and that's a really good one if you want to teach indigo to children. But I wanted to kind of start looking at some of the tools and some of the chemicals that would have been used back several generations ago. And I brought some cotton with me, but while I've been here, I have been using Manta cotton, which is regionally produced. And the interesting thing for me is, as I have used it, this fabric looks very old and weathered. It's brand new fabric. But to me, because the work is spiritual, it says a lot to me about labor, the cost of labor, how things get worn out, how bodies get worn out. And the medical disparities are tremendous for persons of color. So I feel kind of good about, having some fabric in my installation from the Americas, because that's where our indigenous roots are from. That's where my indigenous roots are from.
Right.
So what I'm disappointed about is that I didn't get to the point of being able to get my fabric to some people to help me sew while I'm here this time, because I wanted to go back home with a number of masks that were produced.
You have a vision for how you would like to tell us a little more about how you would like to see this.
So at home I have a couple of women that are helping me sew masks, and they're telling me, they're talking about their stories in terms of the experiences that they've had with the medical profession. What I'm also hoping to do here, since I'm going to be having some women help me sew, is I want to know their experiences as well. There are some wonderful naturopathic healers here, but I want to hear some of their stories as well. And also, this was never designed to be something that I was doing on my own, but I wanted to have conversations. And when I say I'm a community-based artist, these are the kind of conversations that I'm talking about. Understanding what other women are experiencing. How are they going to be able to contribute to this process? How can I incorporate their voices into the work as well? So, and the other thing that I have to consider, which I hadn't, was just the basic chemistry. The hardness of the water here. The water here is a lot high mineral content. So I'm using an iron vat. So how are these other minerals? Because I don't know the composition of the water. I, probably need to find out. How much magnesium is in the water, how much calcium is in the water, because that's also going to affect my color production. It's also going to affect the uniformity of the color. Things I had not thought about before I got here.
Does the altitude also affect?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Because we're at 5,000 feet.
We're
not at sea level.
We're not at sea level, and so that's another question. I don't know.
There's a lot of science that goes into this.
Yes, and the altitude question is a good one. Yeah, that's.
Even boiled eggs don't come out right here. Right by my standard.
Right.
They're just different.
Different, and I hadn't even thought about that, because I noticed that too. I'm thinking, well, what am I, but it's
what am I doing wrong? And it's like, no, and you go to anyone else and say, how's boiling eggs going for you? And you're like, terrible.
So so as you can see, I keep very copious notes in that notebook right there. This is my notebook. It's my research notebook. This is an indigo plant here. So I have a number of indigo recipes, articles, archaeology, history. I keep everything in here. Folk tales. And these are the notes I've been keeping while I've been here, but I hadn't even factored altitude. So something to explore.